back to B&E Productions. I'm Ethan, and here we are with another airsoft related video. This one is actually going to be a little bit different than our typical ones. Not necessarily a review, but more of a how-to. And today, I'll be talking about how to take the orange tip off of your guns. To make sure that you're, in an area that you can do that, and it's not against the law to take off the orange tips. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about it, because I've been getting a couple questions lately about how to take the orange tips off their guns. So you can put super sweet compensators or mock suppressors or anything like that on there. And I'll be getting into a different couple types. So let's get to the workbench. Alrighty, so now that we're at our workbench here, a couple tools that I would recommend before we start getting into this is a good pair of pliers. Multi-tool works great. That's typically what I use, and I'll get into why. A set of, or some AR wrenches. These are built with specific cutouts to be able to, take apart ARs, especially the one right here for muzzle devices. Highly recommend using that. And then probably a set of Allen keys. Some of these have Allen keys, some of them don't, some are pins. So let's just get into an example right here. This is my friend's rifle that's on loan to me for the time being. But as you can tell here, this one has a pin in it. So typically what I would do in this situation is I would just kind of chip away at the plastic here until I can get a good solid purchase on that pin, and then just remove that pin. Here's an example of that. Sorry, I have a couple different ones here. I've taken a lot of these off. So this one has that tiny little hole. This is the pin that would go in there. So in this example, I would just remove that plastic, just kind of chip it away until I'm able to get my pliers enough room to go ahead and grab that pin. And from there, so say for example, I just removed the pin on this one. Then I would use my AR tool. I would go ahead and get it on the bird cage here. It's kind of hard to do one-handed, because I'm trying not to jack up my friend's rifle. But you get the idea. You would just go ahead and slip that on, and then you would screw whichever direction. That is one thing to make sure of when you are doing this, is to check which direction the threads are, so that way you don't screw it in the wrong direction. So for example, using your AR tool here, is you would go ahead and clamp onto that flash hider, and then you would be able to, torque it like a wrench and be able to screw it off in the direction that you need. Now some of these are a little bit different. So the one that I showed you has a pin. Typically that's really common. On some of them though, they have little Allen keys. So you'll have to have a set of Allen keys, and then you will remove that Allen key, and then it'll be pretty much the exact same process as once you remove that Allen key, you'll go ahead and put your AR tool on it, and then you'll be able to take that off. So those are pretty much the most standard ways of doing it. Some of these companies use a very aggressive amount of glue. So what some people recommend to do is use a heat gun or a hair dryer if you don't have a heat gun. Go ahead and heat up that area, and then you should be able to torque it off. Typically, I haven't had to use that in any of my guns so far, but there are some guns that are known for that, so just be aware. And then we have others that I probably should have used a heat gun on this one. This was from a SCAR 16. As you can tell, I really mangled that and pretty much destroyed the threads on there. I just could not get this gun or take this flash hider off. So some of them you may just have to brute force it. Try not to break your threads. So like for me, there's no pin on this one. And I was just really just trying to unscrew this, and it just wasn't working out for me. So I probably should have tried to use the heat gun method. I eventually just stuck a screwdriver through here and just torqued it off after destroying a bunch of the threads. And it was funny because it looked like there was a screw in this one. And once I finally was able to chip all the way around it and do what I thought I needed to do, there wasn't a pin. Or there was, but it didn't do anything. So, yeah, that one just took me a while. Some of these are just going to be brute force. For the most part, though, you shouldn't really have that issue. Again, this is a Crytek one. This one had a screw in it. Just had to unscrew it, and then they took it off. This one was done by techs because I had to get my gun serviced. And while it was there, I was like, hey, can you guys just take the orange tip off? And they did. It was like $5. So if you don't really want to mess with it, a tech can do it too. This is the last one I'll talk about today, but this is a Salient Arms double stack 1911, 2011, there we go. And this one is pretty much just held in by glue, so you'll take a heat gun or a hair dryer. You'll just get that nice and hot, and then that should melt the glue enough where you should be able just to pull this off. Oh, cool. So, sorry for that weird cut, but I was actually just playing with this. Typically it's just, stuck in there, and I used my pliers and just kind of wriggled it out. Didn't even need to use a heat gun or anything like that. It actually looks way better now. There's a review coming up on this gun. I'll leave my thoughts there, so stay tuned for that review. But yeah, this was simply just use a little bit of force and pretty much just come on out. So that was actually pretty simple. I wasn't planning on doing that right now, but hey, while I'm talking about it, really simple. It just kind of just torqued its way out. I just used my pliers, was wiggling it, and just popped off. So pretty simple and easy there. Just be careful though. Don't force it to the point that you're gonna bend or break your barrel or any of the internals there. So just be careful, especially using any of these tools. Don't let it slip and hit you or whatever. But taking orange tips off is pretty easy. It's one of the easier things to do on the teching side of things, and it's not even really teching, but accessorizing, I should say. And then once you go ahead and get your replacement flash hider or mock suppressor or whatever have you, tracer unit, just make sure it's got the right threads and it should work just fine. Thank you so much for watching and all your support, and have a great rest of your day.